Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are starting unit 6 of class 6, that is new questions and ideas. Now, this is a very important chapter because here we learn about the Buddha, Buddhism and Jainism. These were not just religions but new disciplines and new ways of thinking that completely changed ancient Indian society. And let me tell you clearly, from this chapter, questions are 100% sure in UPSC exams. In every year, one questions will definitely comes either from Buddhism or Jainism. So that is why this topic is must read and also very interesting if you understand it as a story. So let's begin with Buddha. He was born around 2500 years ago, and now the question is, how did Buddhism come into existence? See, at that time life was changing a lot. People were tired of following complex and strange rituals in society, and many people were not satisfied with those old practices. They wanted something different and something meaningful, and in that search, Buddhism emerged. The Buddha himself belonged to the Sakyagana. I already told in earlier, he was a Kshatriya prince, but he gave up all luxuries and decided to search for the truth. Okay, so what did he do? He sat for meditation under the peepal tree at Bodh Gaya in Bihar. There he attained the enlightenment, and after that he went to Sarnath near Varanasi, where he delivered his first sermon, and this is called the Dharmachakra Pravartana. Okay, and finally he passed away at Kushinagara. But please remember these places, that is Bodh Gaya, Sarnath and Kushinagara, and these are extremely important because an examiners love to ask about them. Okay, now why did people accept this new religion? And because Buddha's ideas were different from the old traditions. He did not focus on sacrifices or rituals. He simply spoke about the reality. And his main teaching was that life is full of suffering and unhappiness, and this suffering has a reason and it can be removed if we follow the right path. Also, very important point is Buddha never talked about the God, and he neither said God exists and nor did he say God does not exist. His focus was always on human life, suffering and how to overcome it. Okay. Now in your NCERT they have given only the basics of his teachings, and don't worry, you will study Buddhism in more details in later classes, but for now you should make the short notes for these chapters. Okay. Now let's move on to the Upanishads. Now what does the word Upanishad mean? It literally means to sit down near. Okay, that is students sitting close to the teacher to learn. So these texts are basically conversations between teachers and students. The students ask the deep questions like what is the meaning of Atman, or the soul, the self, and why the sacrifices are performed, and what is the universal soul, and what is the relation between the individual soul and the universal soul. And these were not ordinary questions, these were philosophical inquiries. That's why the Upanishads are also called the Vedanta. That is the end or final part of Vedas. Okay, now remember, in this period there were thinkers who contributed to these ideas. Okay, both men and women thinkers took part. The whole point was knowledge is gained by dialogue, by questioning. Okay, later on you will see that the great philosophers like Adi Shankaracharya build on these ideas. For UPSC, one important thing, that is the 6 schools of Indian philosophy, and that is Vaisheshika, Nyaya, Samkhya, Yoga, Purva Mimamsa, Vedanta. These are founded by sages, that is Konada, Gautama, Kapila, Patanjali, Jaimini and Vyasa. And please note this, UPSC prelims allowed to ask the MCQ on these schools and their founders. Okay. Okay, these things we already covered. Now, also one more important name, that is Panini. He was a great grammarian, the one who gave us a systematic grammar for Sanskrit. His work, Ashtadhyayi, is considered one of the greatest works in linguistic science in the world. Now let's come to Jainism. That is the last and 24th Tirthankara was Vardhamana Mahavira, and he too was a Kshatriya prince born in the Vajji Sangha, which was already discussed in chapter 5. The Mahavira's teachings were very simple but very strict. He said that anyone, man or a woman, who wishes to know the truth must leave their home and live a life of renunciation. The central principle of his doctrine was ahimsa, that is non-violence. Okay, Mahavira thought all living beings long for life. To all things, life is dear. So, to hurt or kill any being is wrong. Okay, just like the Buddha, Mahavira also wanted his teachings to be understood by common people. That's why his followers used Prakrit language instead of Sanskrit. For example, in Magadha, they used the local dialect called Magadhi Prakrit. His followers came to be known as Jainas, and they were expected to follow very strict rules. They had to be completely honest, and they should not steal. They had to observe celibacy, and of course, they had to follow ahimsa in every aspect of life. Now, think practically. This was very difficult for ordinary men and women. The farmers, for example, had to kill insects while protecting the crops. The traders found it hard too, but still Jainism got strong support, especially from traders and merchants, because it matched their lifestyle of honesty and non-violence. Another important point, the teachings of Jainism were preserved. About 1500 years ago, Jain scholars wrote them down at a place called Vallabhi in Gujarat. This is very important for prelims, okay? Now, talk about Sangha. Both Mahavira and Buddha believed that only those who left their homes could gain true knowledge. So they created an association for such people. This is called as Sangha. Now, for Buddhists, the rules of Sangha were written down in a book called Vinaya Pitaka. And this is very important for you to remember, okay? And while we are here, let me also tell you about the other Pitakas. That is Vinaya Pitaka, rules for monks and nuns, and Sutta Pitaka, that is Buddha's sermon and teachings, and Abhidhamma Pitaka, that is philosophical and psychological analysis. Okay, together these three called as Tripitaka or three baskets of wisdom, and UPSC prelims has asked this in many times. Okay, now who joined this Sangha? Men and women who wanted to follow this path. Right, they lived very simple lives and spent most of their time in meditation. And that's why they were called as bhikshus for men and bhikshunis for women. The word bhikshus in Sanskrit actually means the beggar, because they lived on alms given by ordinary people. And here's something interesting, that is Sangha was open to everyone, that is Brahmins, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, so no caste barrier. This was revolutionary for that time. Okay, now from Sangha we move to monasteries. Buddhist monks and nuns used to travel from place to place spreading teachings. But during the rainy season, they could not travel. So they stayed in the temporary shelters. Later, there was a need for more permanent shelters. And that is how monasteries came into existence. And these monasteries were called as viharas. And very important term, viharas are the place where monks lived. And the earliest vihara were made up of wood and bricks. Okay, later they were carved out of rocks and become more permanent. Now another structure you should know about is chaityas, and students often get confused between viharas and chaityas. Vihara means residence of monks and chaitya is prayer hall, and often with stupa inside. So please keep that distinction in mind for prelims. Okay. Alright, so this is the end of unit 6 and new questions and ideas. We covered Buddha, Upanishads, Jainism, Sangha and monasteries. And thank you for listening. I will upload unit 7 in the coming days. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and take care.